Hey folks, imagine you're out at a weekend birdwatching trip with a friend who's always bragging about spotting rare warblers, but you're not sure if your current binoculars are up to the task. You don't want to waste cash on something that looks slick but ends up leaving you squinting through foggy lenses, yet you also don't want to skip out on a pair that could actually turn a casual stroll into a real wildlife adventure. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I spent a solid afternoon comparing a handful of mid-range binoculars, and the Zeiss Conquest HD 8x56mm kept popping up in the conversations because of its promise of a bright, clear view in any weather. Let's break down exactly what that means for you, and whether it's worth putting your hard-earned money into this particular model. First off, the biggest hesitation most people have with a binocular in this price bracket is the trade-off between magnification and eye relief. An 8 magnification on a 56mm objective sounds like a sweet spot for both wildlife and landscape lovers. You get enough reach to see a hawk perched on a far-off branch, but you're not forced to stare through a shaky image when you're on a moving boat or a shaky trail. The real test, though, is how much light actually makes it through those lenses. Zeiss advertises a 90% light transmission, thanks to their T coating, which basically means the glass lets in a lot more light than standard coatings. In practice, that translates to a brighter image at dusk or on overcast days, and you'll notice less of that washed-out look that can ruin a birdwatching session just as the sun starts to dip. I tried the Conquest HD on a misty morning at a local lake, and even with a thin layer of fog, the scene stayed crisp enough to distinguish a duck's feather pattern. That's a practical strength you can actually feel in the field. Now, let's talk about the clear view in any weather claim. It's easy for manufacturers to throw that line around, but the key is the combination of the T coating with the optimized operating elements. The internal prisms are designed to keep the image alignment steady when you move quickly, like when you're tracking a fast-moving animal or following a boat across a lake. In my side-by-side test with a similarly priced pair from another brand, the Zeiss maintained a steadier picture as I walked uphill, which helped reduce eye strain during longer outings. If you're the type who spends a few hours in the field without a break, that steadiness can be the difference between a pleasant experience and a tiring one. On the downside, the Conquest HD is marketed as compact and robust, and it is definitely lighter than some bulkier 1080 models you might see on the market. However, the 856mm configuration still feels a bit on the heavier side after you've been holding it for an hour or two. The rubber arm wrap is generous, but the overall weight can become noticeable if you're planning on trekking over rugged terrain with a pack that's already maxed out. In other words, if you're a lightweight backpacker who wants to keep every ounce under control, you might find the binocular a little too hefty for a day-long hike. That's the practical weakness to keep in mind. Another thing people often overlook is how the binocular handles low light conditions when you're not just watching birds, but also doing some stargazing or nighttime navigation. The 90% light transmission does help, but the 8 magnification isn't enough to pull in the same level of detail you'd get from a dedicated astronomy pair. So, while the image will be brighter than a lower transmission model, you'll still be limited by the aperture size. If your primary goal is astrophotography or deep sky observation, you're better off looking elsewhere. For everyday wildlife, sunset hikes, and scenic overlooks, the trade-off works nicely. Who should buy this? If you're a birdwatcher, a nature photographer, or a weekend hiker who likes to pause and take in the scenery without lugging a telescope around, the Zeiss Conquest HD 856mm hits a sweet spot. It offers enough magnification to bring distant subjects closer while delivering a bright, steady image that works in less than ideal weather. The robust construction also means you won't be worrying about a cracked housing after a tumble in underbrush. For those who already own a pair of older, lower transmission binoculars and feel like they're missing out on detail during dawn or dusk, this model feels like a genuine upgrade. Who should skip it? If you're a serious astronomer, a ultralight backpacker, or someone who needs a very high magnification for detailed identification at extreme distances, say, spotting distant mountain peaks from a valley floor, then the 856mm might feel limiting. Also, if you're on a tight budget and can't stretch a little beyond entry-level options, you might find the price a bit steep for the incremental gains over a decent 842mm pair that already offers solid performance. In those cases, a more modest model could provide a better cost-to-benefit.